Welcome back, everybody. When we heard Wake Me Up When September Ends, we took that a little too literally, but we are back. My name's Adam,
And I'm Steve.
and this is Ass, and we talk about movies and stuff. Glory be, the writer's strike is over. How does that make you feel?
It makes me really happy because a lot of the stuff that they got through was stuff at the beginning of the strike that all of the producers like Bob Iger and Zaslav and all those people were like, those are non-starters. We're not doing that. And it's
Mhm.
stuff like getting your payments afterward when your project is successful and not just a one-time thing when you're a writer, as well as different things like keeping AI out of the room, having to keep certain writers and a certain amount of writers on for an entire project, being a show or a movie otherwise, and just different things like that. They were kind of skirting around and trying to pay people a lot less. So it's a lot of positive things. Unfortunately, the actors are still on strike right now, so we still stand in solidarity with them, but it's really awesome to see the writers got this, and hopefully that means that the actors will be shortly behind.
It's kind of weird that they would end one and not the other. Like I know that they're not the same thing, obviously, but you'd think the writers would be like, yeah, and the actors stuff. We want all that to happen too, and then our stuff can happen, Like everything happens at the same time.
Yeah, it's weird. It's union stuff, but there are a few other things that the actors are still fighting for that are a bit different than the writers. But yeah, you would hope that it would be the producers too that would also want to get their projects going again. And obviously, without actors, you're not going to do anything other than like reality TV for the most part. So stuff really needs to move there, especially as more things keep getting delayed because they're all scared that things won't come out. Dune 2 being one of them. So it's kind of disappointing on that front, but hopefully stuff starts getting moving soon and hopefully the actors get everything that they really need.
Yeah, I fully agree. Speaking of Dune 2, I am heartbroken, obviously, because I chose it for our ass anticipation game at the box office. Just to recap, we drafted 10 movies back and forth. We add up the Rotten Tomato scores, but the Rotten Tomato scores only count if the movie grosses $100 million domestically, which is where The Nun 2 fell short. It is currently sitting around 70 million, so it's still possible. But I think the Rotten Tomatoes is about 46%, something like that. But every little bit matters because right now you are sitting about 150 points ahead of me. And without Dune, and by the way, None 2, that was your last one.
Yep.
So you're ending at 618. And I have two of the most anticipated superhero movies of the year in Aquaman 2 and Captain Marvel 2. And so congratulations, you won. Good game.
I mean, you never know. I mean, hopefully this Marvel's movie is a lot better than Captain Marvel because we're both notoriously known for not really liking that movie, especially when it first came out. But
Mm,
I'm pretty hopeful for this one. I liked the Miss Marvel TV show that they put out on Disney Plus. I really enjoyed it. And
mm.
I liked the other character that was in WandaVision. I cannot remember her name at the moment. Monica something. She was
Lambeau.
really yeah, she was really good in that too. So I'm excited to see all of them together in this one. Brie Larson doesn't have to carry it all by herself, which I still like Brie Larson as an actress a lot, but I just think that project was a little shitty. But other
Mm.
than that, I'm excited for it. I think you have a chance, honestly, just because I don't see the Nun ever even making that, regardless of the Rotten Tomatoes score, just because everything's still coming out after that right now. There's more movies coming out, and there are already movies that are out right now that are probably more appetizing to the audience that would go see the Nun 2 being Saw X. So, yeah, I don't see it really going that much further in the box office.
I would guess that I have more faith in Aquaman: The Lost Kingdom just because I trust James Wan more than I trust. Is it Nia DaCosta who's doing the Marvels, the lady who did the Candyman movie,
I
the
want to
remake?
say that. I'm not 100% sure, but I do think it.
Mm-hmm. Well, she's better than the directors of the first movie. And I even said when the first movie came out, I was like, well, this second one has to be better. They're going to learn from their mistakes. And also, well, another thing that I realized is, and I had this feeling when I watched the Paw Patrol movie recently, which is a sentence I, a grown adult man, am saying, is that it's not for me. You know what I mean? Like, I think a lot of people are mad because the main demographic from Marvel movies is like 18, 24-year-old men who are like really excited about all these comic book movies. I mean, I know they're trying to be four quadrant blockbusters, but they're trying to be like a four quadrant franchise. And this one's like, okay, well, we're this is more for teenage girls, or women just in general. So obviously it's not gonna like perfectly be up my alley. That being said, Barbie's my second favorite movie of the year, So if it's good, I will like it. It's not like, oh, it's not perfectly designed for me, so I'm automatically not going to like it. Like, no, I'm excited to give it a chance. Miss Marvel, I agree. I didn't finish the show, but her character is very I like her. She's very proactive, full of personality, and so I'm excited to see where they go with her. And then more Ocean Master in Aquaman 2, and more, furthering the Black Manta Aquaman rivalry. I'm excited for that stuff. So maybe we'll get something good here, huh?
Yeah, I'm pretty excited for that one too. I'm a big Jason Momoa guy. I liked the first one, and the first one had a pretty big box office that a lot of people weren't really expecting. So
Mhm.
I think it could be attractive to a lot of different people coming this, like, isn't it coming out right around Christmas, right around there? So yeah,
Yeah.
it has all that family. I feel like a lot of people could take their kids to go see it. It's not going to be anything too crazy, so it could be attractive to a lot of those families around the holiday season. So it could see those big numbers.
The only argument that it has with families is it is going to have to compete with Wonka, which I'm very excited about. And then I think they'll be catching the tail end of Trolls and Wish. And I think there might be another animated movie coming out this December, but I can't exactly remember. But it'll be exciting. I mean, there's no like huge like Avengers, or I mean, even a big Marvel movie coming around Christmas, or Star Wars or Avatar. So it'll be interesting to see where they go here.
Yeah, I'm pretty excited to see the upcoming slate. But coming up right now, I just want to talk about a couple movies that I'm just catching up on that you saw a long time ago. One of those being Boogeyman, that unfortunately came out in June, even though it's definitely more of a horror movie and should have probably came out now, but it doesn't matter because it's kind of a piece of shit. I like Rob
Mhm.
Savage's first movie, The Host. I thought that one was a really creative idea. It's only a little bit over an hour long, and they created it all on Zoom, like we're doing right now. And it was a really cool idea, especially at the time. He couldn't do a whole lot of stuff, and there were a lot of cool horror, like supernatural elements in there. But his last movie, Dash Cam, also didn't really like that. The character in it was just really annoying and like alt-right shitty person. And it
Mhm.
just wasn't anything really enjoyable to watch. And this new one, while they did try to go back more to like traditional horror aspects, being like a family dealing with grief and everything, the monster didn't look that good, and just overall, it wasn't that entertaining of a movie. So, what are your thoughts on the Boogeyman? I know you saw it a while ago.
That's a very funny question because I did this all this is new to me. I'm totally forgetting everything that happened in this movie. I know it ends with burning love, isn't that correct?
I want to see, yeah.
Why? I remember being so perplexed by that. Like, that has nothing to do with anything else that's going on in the movie, I feel. And it just was,
Literally, the only thing was if a house was on fire. That's the only thing.
oh, I guess, don't even remember. It's just kind
Yeah.
of like one of those like trauma horror movies. And it's got that guy from Devil that I really like, the detective. He's also in Birds of Prey. He's like the lemming of the
Is he in
main
Julie
villain.
and Julia too? Have you ever seen that?
I have not, but I used it as a trivia question recently, so
I
I
think he
feel
might be
like I
in
have
that.
to.
I think he might be in that with Amy Adams. I watched it like a couple months ago.
Oh, well, I'll definitely check that out because I recently did It's Complicated, which is a very similar era Meryl Streep movie. So I'm gonna do that and Iron Lady and whatnot. But um, I forgot his name. I think it's like Chris something, but he's very good in this. It's just one that like, I mean, not went over my head, but like meant nothing to me. I was totally unfazed by it. It was not a very big movie at the theaters, if I remember correctly. And it's just like a very run of the mill Stephen King adaptation, if you ask me.
Yeah, I didn't even know it was even a Stephen King adaptation until the credits, and I was like, that's one of the weakest ones that I've seen, honestly. It just wasn't
Mm-hmm.
that scary. Unfortunately, it didn't really seem like it had high of budget because the CGI creature that, especially just calling it Boogeyman, I just gotta say that's one of the weakest titles because that term has been used so many times that there's nothing really scary behind that anymore. And the CGI monster just looked really like CGI, like almost early 2000s bad. Like it didn't
Mm-hmm.
look that believable. And although it was funny when it like threw one of the kids across the room, it just wasn't that good of a movie whatsoever. And I'm not surprised that you don't remember it because it's very much an unmemorable movie that even in a month I probably won't remember a lot of the stuff I'm talking about right now.
It's really funny, actually, that this movie, I'm feeling this way about this movie because I was talking to you before we started here that I saw The Exorcist, Believer, last night, and everyone's super low on that. And I'm like, good movie. I actually really enjoyed that. And then Saw X is getting a lot of praise. And then even The Nun 2 has its defenders. But I would take the Nun 2 over this even, and that this is like Nun 2 is like just a cash grab sequel.
I've heard a lot of people say that the Nun 2 is basically the Nun 1 wrapped in a new bow.
It was really annoying when they asked me to remember the events of the first movie because I know I saw it, but I was like, like, because I think the writer is good. I think she was the lady who wrote Megan and whatnot. So I enjoyed that, and I did like the story overall. And there was some scares that I was interested in, but like just the fact that it was like, oh, we're continuing that storyline, and I was so uninvested in that storyline that it just really took me out of this movie. So yeah, not great horror, but there's other better horror that we'll talk about later.
Well, one that I just want to get out real quick, The Last Voyage of the Demeter, which is not extremely horrifying. It's very much a slow burn. It's set in the 1800s on a boat, and it very much resembles like the old school, like 1920s Nosferatu, like German Dracula movie, especially because it takes place like on the ship and everything. Like they ship them across and everyone dies on the boat in Nosferatu. And this kind of almost does that, but it shows you everything on the boat and shows you this horrifying Dracula creature that comes to life and just starts taking them out one by one. And I thought it was pretty fun, honestly. I don't hear a lot of people talking about it still, but I thought it was cool that they set it in the time they did in the 1800s and everything, and the cast was really good in my opinion. There were a few people that I recognized from like Game of Thrones, and one of the guys was from Straight Outta Compton and The Walking Dead, and there were a
Corey
couple other people
Hawkins.
in there that I really liked. But yeah, Corey Hawkins, I liked him a lot in this, and the creature was honestly really good too. I think it was played by the same guy who does some of the different creature things, and like it. I think he was the leper guy who has like the Eddie's pills and stuff like that, and
Mm-hmm.
he plays different creatures. And I thought it was really cool how they shot it because it was really dark a lot of the scenes, and it was lit by candles and things like that. And just seeing the monster in a lot of the darkness a lot of the times really made it that much more terrifying. But it's a very slow burn of a movie, and if you don't really like that kind of stuff, you don't like period pieces, it might not be for you. But personally, I really liked it. It kind of reminded me of like the old Universal monster movies.
Yeah, I did enjoy it actually because there's a lot of horror movies where we're not really showing the villain or the monster, ghost, ghoul, demon, whatever. And here we get a lot of like specifically face to face time. Like there are shots of his face, and yeah, it's
Hmm.
dark, but like you can see it. You could see all the details there, and I really enjoyed the design. It was really creepy, and I cared about the main character and his quest here. I did think it was kind of funny. Light minor spoilers here, but there's very clearly an attempt to continue this movie into a franchise,
Hmm.
which, by the way, if I had a nickel for every time I watched a Universal movie where they tried to spin off one of the classic Universal monsters into a franchise, oh my gosh.
And then
Uh,
there's never a sequel.
yeah, which I don't want a sequel to this. Like, this is a solid 3 out of 5. I had a good time, but no, I'm not really, I don't really want anything else out of this.
I would watch it if it came out just to see how crazy it would be, but yeah, I don't think it's really that necessary. I like Nosferatu, and I'm happy that it's also being remade right now by is it
Oh, yeah, it's that guy who
Robert
did,
Eggers,
yeah,
right?
Robert Eggers.
Yeah,
Yeah.
he's going after it now, and that makes me pretty excited, especially how he stays so true to different period piece things like that, and it feels like it'll be very authentic. But this one was a lot of fun. It's definitely more of a popcorn version of Nosferatu. It's more accessible to people, but also, like I said, if you're not into the period piece stuff, some of the dialogue and stuff might not be that well for you. But a lot of the music I like too. It played into the suspenseful moments and things like that with the strings and everything.
Mhm. Yeah, I wasn't over the hill about it. Solid 3 out of 5. It's better than The Nun. It's better than the other movie we were just talking about. Jeez Louise.
Boogeyman, is that
But
it's that
so
forgettable?
forgettable. It's so forgettable. But there's a much better horror in store for us today, I feel. But yeah, no, solid pass.
Yeah, I gave it a 3.5. It was very enjoyable. Not a perfect movie by any means, but really fun. If you're a fan of those Universal monster movies, definitely give it a chance.
And speaking of some big horror these days, I imagine it's fine to start out with Saw X. How did you feel about it?
So going into this one, we just had Spiral a couple years ago, and I'm kind of happy that it didn't take it in that same direction because it did end open-ended, like they were going to continue in that direction. But with Saw X, we went way back in time. surprisingly enough, I didn't know it until the day I was going to see it that this place takes place between Saw 1 and Saw 2.
Hmm.
Had no idea before I was actually like about to leave for the theater, but I thought that was really cool because you go back and we know John Kramer is a cancer patient. That's kind of why he started all of these games and everything like that to make people kind of see their humanity again and learn from their mistakes and different things. And it's very interesting to see this man that was an antagonist for a lot of the other movies almost become a protagonist in this one. Like he obviously is still doing a lot of bad shit here, but you feel really bad for him when he's trying to find his cure for his cancer and he's going to all these different support groups. And they very much humanize this character who kind of has no business being humanized in a way, but Tobin Bell still has all that charisma and everything, still kicking ass. And I really liked it a lot.
Yeah, I was a big fan of the Spiral movie that came out, so I'm a little disappointed that we're not continuing with that story thread because I was very interested, especially with where they leave off with these characters. But this is fine because I'm fine with this new direction. Obviously Tobin Bell is the backbone of the franchise. Killing him off, midway through the series is a big risk to take. And it's just there was never supposed to be sequels to Saw in the first place, right? Like let's just remember that from the very beginning, right out of the horse's mouth. James Wan and Lee Winnell didn't really plan to go anywhere after the bathroom in the first movie, and all of this is just made up BS. That being said, for made up BS, this is a very good entry into the franchise. It's kind of reminds me, I'm going to talk a little bit later about Equalizer 3 and the rest of the franchise. But it reminded me of that a little bit, where we have an old guy who is getting revenge, basically, on a bunch of objectively horrible people. So it's like fun watching this happen in the movie because you're like, well, yeah, they deserve it. Like it's you still get squirmish watching it because it's gross, but there's also an element of like, yeah, take that,
Yeah,
So I enjoyed that.
it very much almost makes you complicit and almost like barbaric in a way in that way because you're cheering for the guy who you've known for so long being such a heinous character, doing such horrible, like just the things you can't even imagine really in these saw traps. And he's doing all this crazy stuff to people. But because he's so sympathetic in this moment and because he's dealing with such horrible things, and these people are just really shitty, especially the one lady, you just grow to fucking hate her by the end of the movie. So it's so good to see that like it really fills in a lot of the cracks that you didn't really have to fill in for Saul, but it's welcome information. It's not like too much and it's not unbelievable in a way. It's still believable to what James and Lee Winnell had in the first movie. Like it doesn't go to like where it goes in Saw 6 and Saw 5 and all those different sequels. Saw 6 is still good, but the other
Mm-hmm.
ones they just get so crazy and off the walls that it just becomes insane. So it's really cool to see it go back to its roots in a lot of ways. And Kevin Greuter, the guy who was editing for all of the movies and only directed, I think, was it 6 and 7, and then he directed this one, I
I
think.
think it's just six.
Okay.
I'll double check.
I think it might be 6 and 7. I want to say this is his third one, but regardless, he's been the editor for all of them, and he captures all of the look that whether it's the quick zooms and everything, and the green almost look to it in certain spots. But obviously, in Mexico, you got to have that yellow brownish tint to the air. But yeah, all of it has that look to it that and saw. And the music's still there. You get the iconic song at the end, and yeah, just such great things in this one.
No, you're exactly correct. He did do both 6 and 7,
Yeah.
which I agree. 6 is one of my favorites of the franchise. Speaking of where I would rank this in the franchise, obviously the first one stands head and shoulders amongst the rest. And then I got to go with Saw Spiral, the Book of Saw, firmly at the number 2 spot. And firmly at the number 3 spot, I'm going to have Saw 6. But this is just below that, I feel like, because I enjoy a lot of problems I feel like the sequels have is they don't have a main character that I really connect with and care for going through all these traps. So having Jigsaw be the main character is very refreshing, and they attempt themes. Now, maybe not, I don't know. They don't go as far as like Saw 6 does when it comes to tackling the healthcare industry, but there's little tinges of that here. And I just wish they would have gone for that a little bit more, I feel.
Yeah, so the thing I really took away from it, especially when you're talking about Saw 6, It kind of reminded me of Saw 6 in a way because Saw 6 goes after insurance companies and the different predatory practices. And this one almost plays into that in a way because it's playing on like grief and everything and how there are people, especially dealing with cancer and different like life-ending diseases that will literally try anything they can to find that magical cure. And unfortunately, there are people out there like this movie who will literally do what they did and take everyone's money and literally just scam them. So
Hmm.
it's really sad, especially even people online when they get those emails from like, I'm the prince of whatever, and I need your credit card to be able to save me and blah blah blah. And people fall for it and they'll send hundreds of thousands of dollars that really they need for whether it's their retirement savings or whatever. And it's super sad. So I thought that was a really cool way that they tackled this one too. Because it's a thing that happens in real life to a lot of people, unfortunately.
Hmm. Yeah, if you're interested in that concept, I recently watched Matchstick Men, directed by Ridley Scott,
Yeah.
which I thought was a very interesting take on the subject. But one thing I'm going to say about Saw X that I feel like I enjoy about it, especially in comparison to a lot of other requels, which I appreciate Scream, the new Scream really coined that term, right?
Yeah.
So I appreciate that this movie is doing the same thing where they're like, all right, well, it's a sequel to the good one, but it's not like everything that came after it is erased. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah, and actually my rankings real quick. It's definitely Saw 1 first still, but I really like Saw 2. I don't know if it's directly right there, but I would probably put 6 before I would put Spiral right now. Or I mean, yeah, Spiral. And then I'd put Spiral there, and then I'd put 2, and then this one, I think.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, but it's very well reviewed. You know what I mean? It's got an 87% on Rotten Tomatoes from critics, from the audience. It's like 90. So like, it's the best reviewed Saw movie of all time, I think. Because even the original Saw movie is like a middling in like the 50s or 60s. So I do think it's a little bit overrated because I even think as a fan of the franchise, like giving this movie a 4-star rating, which I look back, I gave Saw 6 a 3-star rating, which I put Saw 6 above this.
Hmm.
But with this one, I think the only reason I'm bumping it up an extra number, which on a rewatch of Saw 6, I'm sure I would also go up to a 4, is because I'm just such a big fan of the franchise. And there's so much rewarding stuff for fans of the franchise. And I know I'm the guy who's like, oh, the reference the guy from the other movie. But it's so funny here when they're referencing like bad movies,
Well,
it's
yeah,
like,
and that's the real thing about this one is the quality of this one. While it might not be as enjoyable as some of the other ones, especially for me being a huge fan of most of them. I really hate Saw 5, but the rest of
mm-hmm,
them I still get a kick out of. It's not on the same level as them. Like it's much better written and like the
mm-hmm,
quality of it, you just feels higher because especially towards the end of that series, the budget was practically in the trash. Especially if you look at the sets in like Saw 7, they put
mm-hmm,
all of the money into the 3D technology. The blood is fucking pink and shit. Like it's very bad. And unfortunately, it just felt like a caricature of the Saw series in a way, almost like a parody upon itself. So it's really
mm-hmm,
good that we went back and reminded us of where Saw came from and brought back all the good things while still putting in a lot of other really good elements to make it a really good movie in general. Because I think that's what's really connecting critics to it is that the story here with Jigsaw, it was really a mistake that they killed him off in 3. I think the producers even say that. Like they really wish they wouldn't have done that because Tobin Bell is just such a presence as an actor himself. And he was just so awesome in this. I can't remember how old he is now, but even the physicality and some of the things he did in this, I was like, hats off to you, sir, because you killed it. And it just made it that much more better. The girl bringing back Amanda, her haircut made her look like freaking like one of the people from Galaxy Quest or like Mr. Spock in Star Trek. But other than that, she was pretty cool. I think her acting was honestly better than most of the other movies, too.
mm-hmm. Oh, I also noted it was fruitful to watch like so many of the twists of these Saw sequels. It's like, and this person was helping him out too. So to see a full movie where we see that partnership play out, because it's usually the twist at the end. So we're watching a whole story where two Jigsaw people are trying to execute a bunch of traps like a game, and they have different opinions about how it should be
Hmm.
done, and they feel differently about things, and seeing that like conflict with each other is really awesome.
As well as this makes Saw 2 make even more sense now because Amanda is already a protege of him going into that, but the audience didn't know that. So it's almost
Mhm.
like we know that relationship exists now, and we actually have more behind that going into Saw 2, where she's part of the games again, but she's really just a prop for Saw in or for Jigsaw in the game itself. So that relationship makes it even better, in my opinion, with this movie. And like a lot of sequels where they'll damage the other sequels and kind of make them not at work as well, this one almost like wedges in some things to make it even stronger.
And I feel like it enhances the first movie a little bit
Yeah.
because I rewatched the first movie with my brother recently, and that scene where she's like recounting her experience and Dr. Gordon's watching, and then at the end she's like, "Yeah, he made me better," or something like that. Like something about how the experience of going through this was one that enriched her in some kind of way. And it's like, well, yeah, she goes on to be, what his like protege. So I
Well,
think
and
that that's interesting.
yeah, and that was kind of like his weird goal in a way when he talks about the traps when he's like interviewed by the cops and things like that. He's like, I'm not killing them. They're doing it to themselves. I'm giving them a chance to live. And if they don't take it, it's on them. And that's how he sees it in a way. And if he
Mhm.
sees them going through it, it's almost like he's helping them defeat their sinful ways and things like that. So it's very dark, but it's pretty interesting at the same time.
Because even this movie calls out the moral, conundrum. Like he doesn't kill them; he puts them in situations where they kill themselves.
Hmm.
Well, showing several examples of like this being fruitful venture, like it working, like people being like actually rehabilitated. It's like, oh, okay, so that's why he thinks that this works is because sometimes it does.
Yeah, once it worked or twice it worked.
Yeah, which that's all well and good. Yeah, I'm all for the fan service. Like I'm sitting there. There was three people in my theater at 12 o'clock on a Friday when it came out, and I'm sitting there clapping. When I see people show up in the movie, and I just think that that's real because I knew it too. I was like, oh my gosh, I like because there's someone on the phone, and I'm like, I know who that is. I know exactly whose
Hmm.
voice that is.
In the little scene in the credits too, where we got a little another reveal, I was like, hell yeah. I was like, let's just
Mhm.
show everybody. This is that kind of movie, and I welcome it.
Well, yeah, because like when we got that phone call, I'm like, yeah, that's I. He's got to be there somewhere. And I was fine with that. So to be rewarded by actually like seeing that person, it
Hmm.
was it was really cool. Do you want them to keep going and making more of these?
If they continue in this direction and like fill in spots rather than, or even if they didn't make a sequel to Spiral eventually, like Darren Lynn Bousman comes back, that'd be cool too. But I like playing in this kind of area. And if they have a good idea for it, I don't want them just to do it for the sake of it or because people really like this one. But if they have a really good idea and Tobin's still down to do some different things, I would love that. I want Tobin to still be involved more than anything, just because he is Saw.
No, I agree. If there's a good idea, there's a good idea. That being said, I'm done. Okay, we walk off into the sunset. I'm done. He's too old. There's nowhere else to go. There's nowhere else in the time. The timeline of Saw is so much worse than like X-Men. Like it's so muddied up that it's just. I mean, I know it's ridiculous and we're not taking it seriously, and who cares? But I would rather we move on. Like stop pressing our luck. We
If
made a
you
good
look
movie. Now do something else.
if they fit it between the first three, I'm cool because that trilogy is just really solid. Beyond that, that's when they started getting pretty stupid, but those first three are fun. So if they can fit another one in between like two and three or something, I'd be cool with that. But yeah, I also welcome to just stop it here. Don't try to do it again. You did a really cool thing. But yeah, even if you want to jump in back on Jigsaw and Chris Rock still wants to do a sequel, go ahead and do that. Or Spiral, I mean.
Yeah, Jigsaw's not very good
No,
either.
I watched
I
Jigsaw again
yeah.
recently. The CGI in that looks worse than the CGI in fucking Boogeyman. I'll say that.
Yeah, I wasn't gonna go through the entire franchise again because I think very recently I did all the sequels for the first time. But no, it's a franchise that means a lot to me, and it's a lot of fun watching this. I think there was like a twist for every act, and even though I
Hmm.
knew a lot of it because I worked on the trailer quite a bit, so I'm like aware of what this movie was going for and everything. They literally asked questions like, "How do you feel about this?" like. And like it's like that's kind of a spoilerish thing, man. I don't know.
Yeah.
Like I think when I worked on Halloween the once, they were like, "Oh, how does it feel knowing that Jamie Lee Curtis is gonna die?" And I'm like, "What?
Mhm.
What do you mean?" And then she didn't. So it's like, I guess a lot of people were like, "I wouldn't be happy about that,
Gotta
actually."
change that.
Yeah, but I'm at a 4 out of 5 here for Saw X. It's way more of a three. It's not the best X movie of the year. That's Fast X, if you ask me. But
Yeah,
yeah, what did you say you rated again?
I
4?
went 4 as well. Yep, I
Yeah, it's a good
really,
movie, and that's all we can ask for.
yeah, like you were saying, you're a big fan of the franchise. This is one of the horror franchises that really got me in deep to stuff. Like I came in, I started watching them in like high school, right around there. I think Saw 5 was the first one that I actually like watched when it came out on DVD. I saw the first one like
Mhm.
shortly after it came out, but then I caught back up. But I really enjoy all of them for different reasons. None of them are perfect movies, but this is definitely one of the highest quality ones. So if you haven't gone to check it out yet, I highly recommend it. I think it's one of the better horror movies that's come out, at least in the last couple of months. There are a lot of things that came out this year, though.
And while the other connected movie to this that we're going to talk about next is Paw Patrol. Now, you've seen Paw Patrol the movie, but have you seen Paw Patrol the Mighty movie, the mightiest movie of them all? It's got the same thing, but they have superpowers now. You have a niece. You're going to take your niece to see this movie?
Oh yeah, I probably will, honestly. Me and my brother took her to the first one. Her birthday's actually coming up in a few weeks here, so I'll probably take her out to it unless there's a better movie out there. What do you think,
Hmm.
since I haven't seen it yet?
It's funny because going to a screening like that, because I went to a screening before work at like 11 o'clock on a Saturday, and it's full of parents and kids. And it's one of those movies where when you're reviewing it, you kind of just read the room. You're like, oh, they're enjoying it, pretty colors, blah. But yeah, just standard superhero story. It's a lot like Fantastic Four. They get their powers from like a meteor, and it's kind of like an episode of like Jimmy Neutron or Fairly Odd Parents, where they all get powers for an episode, and it's like the basic powers that everyone has. And
Levitation, super strength, all that kind of stuff.
yeah, I guess the serious things I'll say about this movie is that Sky is front and center here. We also get Liberty gets her nice little subplot, and then the villain is a new villain, but she teams up with the old villain in classic superhero sequel fashion. But my much less serious thoughts on this movie were all of the political indoctrinations that one could possibly mine out of this movie, because how parents will watch like Lightyear and they'll be like, "Did you see those two women kissing in the back room? My kids are gay now." And
Yeah,
like,
it's far right commentary people too. They're like Disney's trying to make people gay and shit like that.
yeah, and I wrote an essay for Disappointment Media about this, and I wrote all my things where I was like, the 9/11 imagery, and Kamala Harris is the villain, and she teams up with Joe Biden, and she's also gay and trans, and like oh, anything I could possibly like
Trigger words.
interpret out of this movie, which you can interpret these things. Oh, you know who the real heroes are? The police and government workers. And so I just like took everything I could possibly out of it, and I was like, now are they trying to indoctrinate your children? No, they're really not. You could do that with literally anything. Stop perverting children's art. And I'm sure there is perverted children art out there in the world that is trying to like do bad things to kids. I also just don't care about kids. There was dogs for 90 minutes and it was colorful and there was some music in it. It's fine. Take your kids or don't. Like don't watch if you're a regular adult unless you want to do the whole bit of Saw Patrol, which I was at the theater all weekend. Not very much of that going on, at least that I noticed.
Yeah, it's definitely two edges of not even remotely the same stone.
Mm-hmm.
Like like Barbenheimer is a bit more fun because they're both grown-up movies, but to go to a very little kid movie to Saw X, I just don't see
Mm-hmm.
where that could even be fun.
I mean, I saw both, but just like with Barbenheimer, I didn't do a double feature. I watched one at a screening one day, and then the other one well, I didn't go to a screening for Saw X, but I saw it separately. But I guess I did Paw Patrol, then Saw, which I would recommend it the other way around. I would do Saw and then cleanse yourself with the
Yeah.
kitty stuff. You know what I mean?
Yeah, you kind of need a bath after Saw, especially after a few of those torture scenes.
Yeah, I think as a fan of superhero movies, I think that you might enjoy the tenets of the genre that they use. Like if you thought that Blue Beetle was derivative, holy shit. But like other than that though, there's nothing really here for anybody. There's a short about a new Dora the Explorer show that looks kind of fun. But other than that, no, there's nothing really like there was one joke that like one of the parents in the audience, like you could tell it really hit them to their core because like someone says like, "Oh, they should make toys out of this." Sorry, parents. And this one guy was like, "Yes, preach," you know.
Yeah, that's funny.
uh, but yeah, no. Other than that, though, no, there's nothing really interesting here. I gave it a 3 out of 5 because your kids will like it, and that's the what's important.
Yeah, it's probably just a run-of-the-mill animated movie that won't be that memorable, but kids will get a kick out of it. And once my niece sees it in theaters, it'll probably be her new favorite movie. So that's usually what happens whenever we go to the movie theater. This is
And
my new
that's what
favorite
you
movie.
want, right? Like, because
Exactly.
my instinct as a movie man is to be like, oh, you not to have a real concrete ranking of the movies and stuff. You just like whatever you see, huh? And but like, yeah, wouldn't it be awesome if every time you went to the theater, you're like, yeah, wow, that was my favorite movie.
Yeah, that'd be
like,
amazing.
like that's how I feel coming out of The Exorcist, and everyone like hates it, and I'm just like, well, I guess I just like movies, you know.
Yeah.
But Bottoms is a movie that's for adults, and so we watched that. Did you? How do you like it?
So that was one of the only movies other than Saw X that I actually watched in theaters in September. And I
Mm.
gotta say, I really, really enjoyed it. I was surprised how funny it was. Like it kind of reminded me of like this is like a teenage girl's version of Superbad in a way. It's like a sex comedy where these two girls are really trying to just lose their virginities. And the flip of the coin is that they are lesbians, and to try to get more girls or get the big popular girls attracted to them, they start this little fight club thing, and it was really funny. Like one of the things that really surprised me was how much like I knew that Marshawn Lynch was in it going into the movie, which if you don't know, Marshawn Lynch, running back for the Seattle Seahawks and Oakland Raiders, NFL legend. And I was surprised how much he was in the movie. Like I thought it was gonna be like a cameo, but he was like a significant part of it, and he was pretty funny, especially when they like would go to him to different reactions. I was really laughing quite a bit. And the two main girls, Rachel Sennett, I want to say is her name, and then the other
Mm.
girl is the girl who voiced
Ayo.
yeah, she's the girl who voiced April in the new Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles movie, and both of them were fantastic in this. Very funny. The chemistry was there, and just everyone in this movie, honestly, just had their moments and had me cracking up. Really, really enjoyed this one.
I'll play devil's advocate on this one. I like. Keep in mind, everything I'm about to say is predicated by the fact that I give it 4 out of 5. I really liked it. I think it's carried by its performances and its direction, and it's very, 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 very funny. Marshawn Lynch is a very good supporting actor in this, and I really liked it. So that, like, all of that in place, like, I like this more than Saw X. I heard a lot about Marshawn Lynch being like really great in this. I missed the press screening. I missed the early fan screening, and then I didn't watch this until like a week or two after it had been on theaters. So like, I was just telling you before this video, I was like, when for casual movie fans out there, if there's a movie with really good reviews that you want to see it right away. Be a part of it. Be a part of the opening weekend buzz. Because if you wait on it and you hear for all this time how good it is, you might not like it as much. But if you there's a bad movie and people don't like it, but you still want to see it, wait, hear all the bad stuff, get it all, absorb it all, and then go watch it. And you have tempered expectations, you might enjoy it more. That's exactly how I watched The Flash, by the way. So
Me
mind
too,
you.
actually.
But here with this, I was like, I heard, oh, Marshawn Lynch is so good in this. Marshawn Lynch is so good, and like he's just kind of playing Marshawn Lynch, and like he's in the movie a little bit, and he's funny, he's good, but like it's annoying when my non movie sports fans friends, like my movie friends who are not into sports, were like, wow, that Marshawn Lynch is so funny, oh my gosh, and I'm like, yeah, we've been known this. I've every single interview he's ever done from now until the end of time. Like I know you know who Marshawn Lynch is. Obviously, I'm not calling you out, but my sports friends who are like discovering him now with this, I'm like, you don't understand. He's been a national treasure for like a decade now. Okay,
Oh
but
yeah,
he is. He was good.
I
I just
have an
thought it was
Oakland
over
Raiders.
exaggerated.
I have an Oakland Raiders sweatshirt that I got with him when he went there. That's how much I love the guy. But yeah, you kind of already he does play Marshawn Lynch, but I like that he didn't feel like a lot of football players when they transition into acting where they're all wooden and stuff. This just feels like a guy who has kind of been acting in the comedy world for a while. Like he just felt naturally into that coach role and building off of these two girls and stuff when they're talking to him about trying to start the fight club and everything, and like, but not really calling it a fight club, calling it like a therapy session or whatever. And him
Mhm.
like talking about his divorce. I thought it was all pretty funny. But yeah,
Well, I think a lot of it's improvised. That's why it feels so natural.
I think it was too, especially like when they would cut to him for different reaction shots too, like when he was in the crowd and like in the gym stuff. I thought was really funny.
Hmm. Well, I think with his performance, the thing that bothers me about it is there was like a story that came out was like, oh, well, he wanted to be in this because I think it's something loosely, by the way, when he was in high school, his sister came out of the closet and he did not handle that situation well. So doing this movie for him was kind of like penance for that situation. And so I thought that his role was going to have more dramatic weight, more so than just like, him just being funny and like women's rights and like, yeah, I don't know. He's funny and good. I was expecting more out of this performance. And another thing you brought up that I really want to touch on is okay, so I did not know what the plot of this movie was. I was sold just the fact it was Rachel Sennott, but I went and watched this movie and they get in trouble and then they're like, "Oh yeah, it's for our self-defense club." Yeah, we have a self-defense club. And I thought this was just like a throwaway like bit in the movie where they're like clearly lying about something and they're like, "Yeah, shut up, go home." And like whatever, we move on with the story. But then that became the whole story is them having to pretend like they have this like obviously fake fight club. Not expecting it to be real, like realistic. It's a comedy. I understand that. But I just thought that was a really weird direction for them to go in because now they're just here and they're all just beating each other up. And I'm very anti-violence. I say as I really enjoyed Saw X. But like, so I didn't connect with any of that. I just thought it was like ridiculous and silly and weird that they just go to this thing and beat each other up.
I think that's kind of why it works in a way, is
Mm-hmm.
that it's so ridiculous and so out there that the idea is just really funny. That like
Mm-hmm.
the school would just accept, oh, this is a female self-defense thing because it's not something that you ever heard ever existing before, but because in the times that are kind of current now, where women have more abilities to do things like that in schools and whatnot, and they have more voices to do things that they're just like, okay, let's just do it because we're all inclusive now, and
Mm-hmm.
it just feels kind of the times, but in a funny, goofy way. Like they're kind of like commenting on it in a way too, that it's kind of like over performative in some cases.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I just said in my thing, I just thought that the script was the weakest part. It's very standard. You have which the second act is transitioning to the third, so we have to pretend to be mad at each other for no reason. And I mean, the end with the big, explosion of violence, that was
The
a lot of fun.
the last 10 minutes of this movie are one of my favorite scenes of 2023 right now because it was completely unexpected. Like they kind of build towards the for the ending at the beginning of the movie when they talk about this violent football team and everything. But then when it actually happened, like you were saying with the Fight Club thing, how you didn't really expect it to become the thing, I never expected that fight to actually really play out, especially in the way that it did.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I just didn't like. I get it; it's a comedy and it's not supposed to be real. But the story was just one that I couldn't get by. Where I was funny for me wasn't in the concept. It was because Rachel Sennott also wrote the movie as well.
Yeah.
Like, so this is clearly like her like project. You know what I mean? So I just thought their relationship together, their banter, and their like things that they would just come up with, like just these little like throwaway lines were in the movie were just so funny. It is a really good, funny movie. I just saw people who were like 5 out of 5 movie comedy of the year, and I'm like, whoa. Uh, but yeah, it is very, very funny. If I'm judging it just like for how funny it was, then yeah, it was like 5 out of 5 funny. That's great. I just couldn't get behind it emotionally, which it was attempting to get you emotionally to a certain extent. You know what I mean?
Yeah, there are certain moments that are definitely wanting you to be more emotional, but yeah, I'm right there with you. Like I gave it a 4 out of 5. It's not like my favorite comedy of the year by any means, but I had a lot of fun with it. It exceeded my expectations really going into it because I didn't really hear a lot of that buzz beforehand. This was kind of a movie that crept up on me. I saw the poster like a couple months ago, and Marshawn Lynch was on it, and that was my first real exposure to it. Like I think I heard the name just because I remembered Rachel Sennott being from Bodies, Bodies, Bodies beforehand, and Shiva Baby, which I haven't watched yet, but I know she's in it, and people have said it's good. Yeah, I just knew that she was in this, so that's really what brought me into it, and I wasn't really disappointed at all.
Yeah, she's kind of one of the it girls right now. I'm a huge fan of Bodies, Bodies, Bodies. And I really like, I'm one of those people who's like, you should watch Shiva Baby. She's really good in it. So I'm happy for her and I'm happy to see what she does going forward. Like I said, the cast and the director, I think, did a great job. And I'm really excited to see what they have going forward. This is undoubtedly, though, I know I'm like, oh, I'm going to play the devil's advocate. It's the best movie of September, if you ask me.
Yeah, I mean, I have to agree because it's one of the only ones I really watched. So,
Mm-hmm.
but one movie that I actually watched this morning that I really, really want to talk about
Mm.
is No One Will Save You. Is that what it's called?
Yeah, Hulu movie.
Yeah, Caitlin Deaver's in it. There are only like two lines of dialogue completely in this movie. So it's very much her just like performing her ass off, whether it's just being terrified throughout this whole thing, but it's really, really cool alien invasion movie. So what do you think about it?
Yeah, I threw it on because I saw someone. I think I just saw an ad, which like I always feel like a capitalist slave when that happens. You know what I mean? I see an ad, I'm like, yeah, I do want McDonald's right now.
Yeah.
But like, yeah, I saw an ad somewhere, and I was like, oh, I remember someone logged this on Letterboxd, and it's I was making dinner, and I was like, oh, I need something to just throw on, and but this was definitely not that because when you want something to just throw on, you want a very dialogue heavy movie that's just like, oh, I can hear the rom com in the background. They're gonna meet cute, get together, break up, get back together. I know what's gonna happen. But here, this is one you really got to pay attention to, because I think one of the letterbox reviews that I saw for this was like, the subtitles were like breathes heavily. Uh,
Oh yeah.
but yeah, I thought that it was one that commanded my attention, and it really did. It was really interesting. So I was like, I felt like I had to keep my eyes glued the whole time. I really liked the aliens in it and the progression of the aliens that were in it. Like
Yeah.
they didn't shy away from anything. They were like, here is the alien face, right up here.
Dude, in the different like there was different creatures that came out, whether and they were still all aliens, but there were ones that had like different like claw hands, and there were ones that had like hands upon hands. Like the designs of these alien creatures were really, really cool. And the CGI, unlike a lot of the movies I talked about beforehand, looked really cool. And like even the alien design itself, like you could have cheaped out and done like the classic alien design, which is there a little bit, but they put so much detail and like it looks so much like texture on it when it's really one of those close-ups like on their faces and
Mhm.
just really incredibly looking. And like I said with Caitlin Deaver, her just acting against all of these different creatures and just being terrified while not even really having any lines of dialogue is pretty incredible.
Yeah, she really carries the movie. I really enjoy the simplicity of it. It's just okay. We have a girl. She's at home. I know a lot of people are saying Home Alone, which I get. I guess I get. But you get the classic like flying saucers in the sky, and they're probing people and whatnot. And it's just like, all right, well, she's got to get out of it. All the trauma stuff with her, like the internal struggle that she was going to, that was fine. That really wasn't. I felt so like oh, about it because I'm watching it. And I'm just like, ah, cool alien,
Well, the good part about that was that it made sense of how the movie started, where they're being very agoraphobic and not wanting to go out, and like how the phone rings and you literally hear the person just yelling at her immediately when she answers the phone, she hangs it right back up. Just like that she, for some reason, nobody likes her and she stays in this house for her own sanity and safety. So it's kind of interesting, and they give you little hints towards what's going on throughout the whole movie, but then they finally show you at the end. And although I wasn't really expecting what happened, there were certain things that kind of showed you what was going to happen.
Yeah, and it wasn't like entirely straightforward, especially with the ending. There's a little bit like I want to say like Pearl is the movie that comes to mind here. This like kind of like fantasy horror. I almost want to say like because
Hmm.
we see like I don't want to spoil the movie, but like the fantasies of where we would like to be whilst in the situation that we're in.
Yeah,
is the most tiptoey sentence I've ever
a
said.
a utopia,
Yeah, yeah,
a perfect scenario.
yeah, like it's not my favorite, horror movie of the year, but I think it's really, really good. I gave it like 4 stars because I thought that, it's really crisp and just over 90 minutes. I don't really like the title very much. No One Will Save You. I think that I don't like sentence titles. You know what I mean?
I don't love the title. I understand what it's going for in the long run. Because what I mean, the terminology or the famous term is no one will save you but yourself, which is
Mhm.
kind of what it's trying to say throughout the whole movie in a way.
Oh, I got that. You know what I
And
mean?
so I
Like the
like the
movie's so
title.
on the
I like the
nose.
title in that sense, but at the same time, yeah, it probably could have been even like Boogeyman, for example. It's the laziest title of the year by far, but this one you could have probably come up with something a little bit more creative. But at the same time, I like that it didn't really give away the alien aspect in the title.
I almost would have preferred like a simple title like The Boogeyman because it is such a simple little like, all right, there's a girl and there's aliens and they're coming after her, and here we go. Like it's
Yeah,
called
but at the
Alien
same time, it's cool
Invasion.
to interpret it for different reasons too. Like it's a bit more than that if you really want it. It can be that, but if you want to think about it deeper, it can say more, you know?
Yeah, like I said, I was very captivated by the horror and science fiction elements of the movie, the dramatic like internal struggle, which I know I'm usually like that's what I was like with Exorcist. I was like, yeah, the horror was fine, but the drama, like of it, I really was really all about her internal struggle in the movie. But here I'm like, aliens, I like aliens. But yeah, I got like it's a little bit like Signs, and I really liked it.
Yeah, I really wish it would have been a theater movie rather than Hulu in some ways, just
Oh
because
yeah.
the TV doesn't do it justice as the big screen would, especially in those darker scenes where you get the aliens moving around. Like to see that on a big screen would have been that much better with the sounds. Like the sounds that those aliens make are honestly very creepy and weird. Just their like little talking that they tried to do.
Mhm. Well, it's just that's a casualty of capitalism, man, because Disney buys 20th Century Fox, now 20th Century Studios, and all of their movies, instead of going to theaters and competing with other garbage like My Big Fat Greek Wedding 3 and Equalizer 3, instead of getting an original movie in theaters to compete with them, which, by the way, Expendables 4, its opening weekend, that was the worst weekend at the box office, like of the entire year. And so why not give a movie like this a little bit of a chance, in theaters? And it's just really sad. So, we get no Blue Sky. Blue Sky is dead because we bought Fox. Oh, but at least the X-Men can be in the MCU now. Like it's just a really sad thing.
Yeah, it's a bummer because a movie like this, I feel like could have been even bigger because it's being talked about a lot on like social media and different things. Like you said with the ad thing, I've been seeing ads for it not only on just my TV but on social media and different things, and even on Letterboxd. It's getting some pretty high praise. So I really wish it could have been a big theater blockbuster of the summer. I feel like it could have probably even made Fox 20th Century Studio, whatever, some decent cash just to throw in their pockets. So yeah, big bummer there, but the movie is awesome. And if you got Hulu, definitely go check it out. It's a 4 out of 5 for me.
So this or Saw X.
I think if you're not a Saw fan, this one for sure. If you're a big Saw fan, it's Saw X, because I liked Saw X just a little bit more. But as a movie, if I'm just like separating all of my love for the Saw franchise, I think this one's just a little bit more entertaining for me because it's just a newer idea.
So I'm gonna be counterintuitive to everything I've ever said, like ever, because we have okay. So Saw X 4 out of 5, right? I recently talked about Exorcist Believer, which I also have at a 4 out of 5, and then this I have at a 4 out of 5, and and then I also have the It Lives Inside, the horror movie about the Indian high school girl who
I've heard of
her
it, but I have not
friend with
seen
the
it yet.
jar, and no one saw it except for me, but I really liked it. But it was a Regal mystery movie at some point. But I know you don't do Regal. But it's that was a 4 star as well. I really liked how personal that was. Like it was a very simple movie, and a lot of people compared it to Boogeyman actually. But I liked like the culture infusion in the story. 'Cause it's all about a girl losing touch with her culture and her family and her friends and her values, and in seek of like more like mainstream popularity. And So like she's getting punished throughout for this, and the only way she succeeds in the end is if she can, get closer with her heritage. And so I thought that was really compelling. And so these are four horror movies all out around the same time that I give 4 stars to. And I hate to say it, man, but The Exorcist Believer, it's fresh. I just saw it last night, but like that's my favorite of the four, man. I that had me like shaking in the theater, like anticipating what was happening next. I maybe it's just the expectation factor of it. Like I'm a Saw fan, like so I'm excited for that. But Exorcist, I don't care about this. Oh, I actually do care about this. But yeah, see The Exorcist Believer, man.
I think
That's
I'm
that's what
seeing
I'd
it
say.
tomorrow in IMAX.
I'm like so excited. I don't know. It's always exciting when like there's a movie that like when it ends. I try to come up with my opinion before like anyone can say anything. Like I really want to wrap up how I feel about it on a surface level. Like obviously their initial reaction. You know what I mean? And so that I don't feel like I'm influenced by anyone else. And I came out, I was like, I really liked it, and both my friends really didn't like it. And I was like, ugh. And then I go and see the Rotten Tomatoes score, and I see the other critic scores and letterbox, and I'm like, oh no. But it's kind of exciting when like there's a movie that everyone else didn't like and you like, and you're like, well, it's mine.
Yeah, you're my only friend right now on Letterboxd that has rated it so far. So I'm curious to see what happens there because I haven't looked at anybody else. It's just yours.
Oh yeah, that was my first press screening in it. Well, besides Paw Patrol, which doesn't count,
No.
but that was my first press screening since like TMNT. So it really has been a minute. But I'm gonna be going to them like crazy now. And now that I'm with my office and I could record my videos here, be ready to see more hard reviews coming out here soon.
Yeah, I got to
But
get back on my stuff too. I have a Saw one, and I might just release it without doing any of the funny stuff, just because I need to get a video out.
yeah, which I my goal for the rest of the year is like to do twice as many reviews in the last 3 months that I did the entire year. I think that I should be motivated by what I got behind me. But I did realize I did 45 videos in the first 9 months of the year. So that might be a little bit hard to do. But it's just been a wonderful, wonderful year for movies. Currently, let's with the year 75% of the way done, I would love to ask you this. What's currently sitting at your number one spot?
I'm gonna look right now. I haven't adjusted it in the last few days, but honestly, in my head right now, I want to say it might be Barbie still. I saw it twice. I really want to see it again. I just really love how that movie just made me feel. It made me so happy, just so positive. Everything in it just made me laugh, and the sets were beautiful. And it was just one of my favorite things that I've watched so far.
Barbie's currently on my two, as I stated earlier. I'm a Guardians guy, and I realize the first thing I tell people when I say that is I'm like I was 14 when the first one came out. Like this is such an important franchise, and because that's the perfect time for this movie to hit you. And so for it to finally like come to a beautiful finish in a world where third acts of a trilogy, especially superhero movies, usually are far and away the weakest entry. So for
Yeah.
them to nail the ending and like I'm crying throughout the entire movie, and if you can make me cry pretty reliably, like hats off to you because I love crying.
Yeah, Guardians is right. Like you can't really see it that well, but Guardians is my number two right
Oh, the
now.
scream at the five. Oh my god. See, that's the thing that makes me so mad about The Exorcist, okay? Is people will eat up all these Scream sequels. And then The Exorcist, they're like, hey, the original is one of the all-time great movies, and how dare they make a sequel to it? And it's like, what are we talking
No,
about
but
here?
that's yeah. I'm a lover of Scream. You know that. I
No,
love
I
all
know,
of these
I know. I'm
fucking
not mad at
movies.
you. I'm mad at everyone else who defended Halloween Ends, but then a year later is like, did that David Gordon Green's a hack?
It's so crazy. Halloween Ends is such a crazy movie just to think about now because it was such a divisive movie at the time, and I hated it when I first saw it, and now I really like it.
I'm still mixed. Like I respect it. I think it's more interesting than good.
I
But I do
as
disagree with a lot of like its tenets.
Yeah, as a cap to that trilogy, I think it's not great. But
Mm-hmm.
as an ending for Jamie Lee Curtis's character, I liked that. I thought that
Mm-hmm.
was good. Like the last like 10 minutes of that movie were by far my favorite. But yeah,
Oh, they like quickly speed up. Let's get all the ending out real quick.
I still have Beau is Afraid in my top 10 too, which I really, really love that movie.
I've been interested in rewatching that actually because
I
that's wonderful.
I went to Target trying to get it, but instead I got my number seven movie. Megan.
Dude, just wait another month, man. All the Black Friday. That's what I'm waiting for.
Hey,
Black
Megan was
Friday
only
to hit.
15. It wasn't that expensive, so it was on sale. It was Target sale,
Mhm.
but yeah, I'm excited to watch a lot of those movies again. But yeah, Guardians and Barbie are fighting for my number one spot. That could change, but honestly, those two are pretty cemented toward the top for me.
Mhm. Just as we're closing out here pretty soon, some other movies. I did the heavy lifting when it came to August and September, clearly. So I'm going to rattle off some of the garbage that I endured. I remember specifically saying the sentence, there ain't no way I'm going to watch two Equalizer movies just so I could watch the third one, and two Greek wedding movies just so I could watch the third one. And I did all six of those movies in 1 week. So I'm gonna quickly get through. Have you seen any Greek wedding or Equalizer movies? And we'll start with what we've
I've
seen. Okay.
seen I've seen the first two Equalizer movies, and I saw the second one in theaters actually.
Okay, so I missed both, because both were coming out when I was like regularly watching movies, but I was not interested. I'm not a big action guy. Wasn't really familiar with Denzel. But by the way, Denzel is the man. It's so cute. He's just like this like nice guy. He like helps out his buddy at work, and he's like nice to this little prostitute girl, and like it's just John Wick but with a prostitute instead, and he's just like getting justice, I guess,
I mean,
against
it's
these
John Wick.
bullies.
It's the Nobody movie that came out last year. It's
Mm-hmm.
all of these movies of like the old guy just beating the shit out of people. It's the fantasy of an old 50-year-old man who just like some guy talks shit to him in the bus at the bus stop and he just wants to beat his ass. It's that kind of movie for that guy.
There's a shot in the new Equalizer 3 that's worth the price of admission. It's like an action shot where like he's like it's like I'm not going to spoil it, but this is basically spoiling it. But it's like at the very beginning, and it's like super badass. The rest of the movie's fine. The first one's I like my favorite. Like I'm overrating the first one by giving it a 4. But the second one was super disappointing. I think I gave it like a 2 or maybe like a 3
Yeah.
because I was like at the end of the day, Denzel is still a professional and he carries,
And Pedro.
Oh yeah, did not like that movie. I
I
did not
liked it. I
like.
thought it was funny. I liked Pedro as the villain. I thought it was entertaining.
If I want to see Pedro play a villain, I'll watch Wonder Woman 1984, baby.
That's true. He is
But
a great
yeah,
villain.
the third one's better than the second one, I guess. Stop making them; they don't need to be made. But other than that, though, the Greek wedding movies. The first one's really cute, actually. And I didn't know the main girl who stars in it. She's also written all of them, and she directs the third one. So I thought that was kind of neat.
So
But
like my only familiarity with it is like my mom rented the movie on
yeah, it's a
VHS
mom movie.
way back in like whatever 1999 or 2000 when it came out.
Mm-hmm.
I remember her renting it and I like saw parts of it as I was walking by waiting for it to be over so I could watch something.
You've seen this movie before. It's basically like, she has this family and they're overbearing and they want her to work in the restaurant and do nothing. And then she meets this guy, but he's not Greek. And so that's a big problem. And it really like struck a chord with me because like my the in-laws, soon to be in-laws, hopefully, they don't like me. So like I was just like, oh, they're just so bigoted and mean and why? There's no
They don't like
sorry that
me.
someone loves your daughter. So like it turned me off that first movie, but it is really good and it's cool seeing the culture and like all the different like personalities in the family. It was very warm, a very fun, happy, feel good movie overall, even though I'm fuming. But the second one was definitely like the unnecessary sequel. We're like trying to. There's another wedding. Oh yeah, because the dad and the mom. It turns out they never got married, so then they have to get married, and that's a big problem.
That
And
one came out during the pandemic, didn't it?
no, this was like 7 years ago, like 8 years ago.
Are you sure the second one?
I'm decently confident
I'm
about
I feel
that.
like it came out during the pandemic because I was confused as to why there was a third one because I felt like it couldn't have made that much money.
It's
It felt
like
like
it's
it came
like
out like right around 2018, 2019. Like I think it was after I came back to Michigan after school.
it's
I want
like
to say it was
it's like I'm the
2020.
big fat Greek wedding guy. The two are you Greek at all?
No,
Oh yeah, I think I said that to you. I was like, I can't even think of like a Greek slur or anything. Like there's
no.
just no one hates the Greek.
I
We
know nothing
we
about the
like the
Greek,
Greeks.
honestly.
But yeah, no, 2016 is when
2016. It
My
does
Big
not
Fat
feel
Greek
like it
Wedding
came
2
out that
came
long
out.
ago.
Yeah, well, it doesn't exist really. It's really just a nothing movie
How
that
did it
only
make enough money to warrant a third movie? It's just my
people like these.
curiosity.
People like there's like enough Greek people. Like I have a friend who's Greek, and he's like, yeah, like this made me want to eat some baklava. And I was like, more power to you,
I don't
man.
even know what that is.
I'm sure it's fine. But the new one came out, and like I really hated it, and like I don't like that I get this big smile, and I'm like, oh, I really hated it. But I did. It was really bad. We're going to Greece now to take the father who's dead, his like diary back to his friends or whatever. And it really just feel like an Adam Sandler movie to the extent of like, okay, let's just me and all my friends, let's go on vacation and we'll film it and we'll call it a movie. And like nothing happens and it's really not funny and or interesting at all. And I don't care about their daughter at all. And it was really a waste of time. But I did it because I have this unquenchable thirst for cinema that
So
clearly, you know.
could you say, since we're Saw fans and we really like Saw X, is this like a Saw X for the Greek wedding fans out there?
No, it's like the Batman and Robin of. No, I'm kidding. It's definitely the worst movie I've seen all month,
But is it
actually.
fan service for those fans?
Yeah, fan service for like your mom. My mom's like, I just want to have a good time, and like she did, and so it's like a reunion movie kind of a thing. Like you know how they did the Friends and the Harry Potter reunion, like that. Just
Yeah,
do that. Stop pretending it's a movie and just bring all the characters back, and then they could spray some Windex on their injuries, and that's a thing in the movie. They use Windex, like oh I got a rash, oh Windex, and that'll fix it.
that's so
Um,
goofy.
but hey, it was cute. I don't know. It's cute, fun, family, romantic
You
fodder.
know, I want to have a hot take real quick. Before this
Hmm.
ends, I actually watched a movie that is universally hated by many people, and it is the Karate Kid remake with Jaden Smith.
Oh,
Hot take, I liked that movie. I was really entertained by it, and I had a lot of fun with it. Jackie Chan, I'm a big Jackie Chan fan, so that's probably really why, but it was pretty entertaining.
I have it right here. The original. I watched it recently for the first time. It's really good. You've sold me on it. It's which, by the way, not a hard thing to do. All you have to do is sell me on a movie, is bring it up, and I'll be like, okay. But
Yeah, the
I'll watch
Jaden
it for you.
Jaden Smith one's not better than the original by any means, but I
Hmm.
really enjoyed it. It's a whole different story. He's from Detroit, so that's always cool, but
Hmm.
I really enjoyed Jackie Chan in it too. I thought he had a good story to go along with it, and it wasn't like straight up remake. Like he's not Mr. Miyagi and all that shit. So fun
And
movie in
he
my opinion.
and he's funny. And who doesn't want to watch Jaden Smith get beaten up?
Exactly. I
But
gave it 3.5 stars. I enjoyed it, but we're running out of time here.
thank you guys so much for watching us today. Thank you, Steve, for joining me today and putting up with my fuckery. But I'm Adam from Hard Reviews. Go check him out. I have a Saw Patrol review coming up, Steve.
Steve at the Film Fan Reviews, everybody. Check us all out. Saw will come out soon and a bunch of other stuff.
Keep loving movies, guys.
Yeah, get hard.